Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, 5011 fam.
We in house tonight.
Yes, it's Jay, it's Dee Dee, doing what we do, having conversations that spark conversations here at the 5011 Chronicles.
I
Y'all,
don't know why I feel silly.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it because it's October, it's spooky season,
It's
it's the
spooky
changing of the colors, it's
season.
fall,
My
it's,
favorite time of year.
for the Wahites and their pumpkin spice and us and our, I
And
guess
the
apple spice is a little bit
foliage.
more us. The foliage, yes, the foliage. The colors, the smells are in the air. Perfect time for more cinnamon and cardamom and all those good old warm
Yeah.
spices, a little clove in there. And also pull out your fall fragrances. This is your reminder for your fall fragrance. Get you a good warm something to
I have
mist
that blue
on.
Versace on the way. What is it called? Day and night, or what is it called? The blue one.
Not Dylan Blue.
I think
There's
that,
Dylan Blue,
yeah.
there's Dylan Blue or Dylan Turquoise, because you know I'm a
Dylan Blue.
Versace.
Dylan Blue. I
Dylan
have
Blue
the
is
Dylan Blue
good.
on the way.
Dylan Blue is
Yeah.
good. I like Dylan. So I got a couple fall fragrances. I've been doing this rollerball of Egyptian musk, and I love it. It's so good. It's so like you get some of those warm spice because Egyptian musk is also a holy scent. It is a holy perfume that you can use for meditation
I'm not a
and
big
different work.
spicy scent person.
I love me a little
That
spice.
apple cinnamon Febreze drives me crazy. I hate it.
Now, apple cinnamon is one of those things that either you do
I
it right or
don't
you
like
don't, and I
it.
don't want to smell a lot of apple cinnamon.
I don't like
But
it.
in other news, I found this other scent, and it's really popular. It's from a brand, Killian Paris, real nice bouge brand. Rihanna actually wears one of Killian Paris's fragrances, and Beyonce
Ooh.
wears one, and the one that I'm talking about is the one Beyonce wears, and it's called Angel Share. And it's this unisex, genderless fragrance, y'all, that smells so good. Like it makes you think of apple pie, but there's no apple notes in it. And I kept wondering why
Mhm.
I was smelling that. It's a
Like it smells
cognac
very
base.
warm.
It's warm. It's a cognac base. It's got sandalwood, amber, vanilla. But
Oh
that
yeah.
cognac come through. And when I
Yeah.
tell you, it smells so nice on. Like it's just warm.
That sounds very fall.
Oh, this is it. This is my fall scent. I do
That
that with a
sounds
little
very fall.
Egyptian musk, and Egyptian musk has a brightness to it from like I want to say it's a coriander note,
Oh,
which
coriander.
coriander. She's cilantro's baby sister,
Can't
and
stand cilantro.
but coriander is so different because it's this bright citrusy like vibe to it. Y'all, I could talk fragrance all day, but that's not why we're here
That ain't
tonight.
even why we here.
That is not why we're here tonight. So October's in the air, fall is here,
Yes.
and we're doing a
They
little
love
spooky
fragrance.
sesh. Love fragrance. Doing a little spooky sesh for October here on the 5011 Chronicles, y'all. And this episode, we're doing a 5011 reviews of The Deliverance, Lee
Yes.
Daniels' new film.
Slash Demon House.
Yes. So please buckle in, get your popcorn,
Strap
get your
yourself
little
down.
beverage, because we are about to get into it, y'all. This movie was something. It was
Yes.
something.
It was something.
So, The Deliverance. I have to start with a little side story before we get into like the plot and other things going on in the film, because this was the official reunion of Lee Daniels and Monique. This was the official first film that they have
Yeah.
created together since Precious, and the debacle that was Lee Daniels, Tyler Perry, and Oprah v. Monique. And so here we are on the other side of it. And what's so interesting is you and I talked about her going to Shannon Sharp's show, Club Shay Shay, and different interviews she'd done in the past where she had talked about exactly what happened and the breakdown of that relationship. But also on Club Shay Shay, she had talked about how T.S. Madison has been instrumental in healing the relationship between the two because T.S. Madison is friends with Lee Daniels and also friends with Monique. And Monique was basically like, look, your friend is wrong. Your friend is wrong. Your friend did wrong. And if you're going to be in your friend's corner, all I ask is that you call up your friend and ask them why they were wrong. You
Did you
call up
catch
your friend and you
that
check your
apology
friend.
he gave though?
I did not
Did you catch
catch.
that?
That was a while back though, wasn't it?
it was like he basically was like, I basically said he didn't know what he was apologizing for, but he was
Yes. Okay.
apologizing.
Yes. Yes. Okay. I remember that.
It's like, what?
But and that's playing the game. Semantics. That is playing the game. Because, sir, you know damn well
I was
what the
like,
issue
yo.
was. I hate non-apologies.
It was, yeah, it'd
I
be
hate
them.
a
I'm sorry you
non-apology.
feel that
I'm
way.
sorry you feel like you could have kept all of those words. Every syllable, you could have just held on to those because that was so unnecessary. But I will say that it seems as though because of the conversation with T.S. Madison and Lee Daniels,
Yeah,
that there was some type of healing to take place,
which is good
behind the scenes, which is good. I think that that's
because they
important,
do well
especially
together.
they do work well together. Like, so that is one of the things coming into this film, keeping in mind. Another thing coming into this film, keeping in mind is, and of course, if it goes without saying, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the movie, we're going to talk about the mess. So you've
Yes.
had
If you ain't
over a month
seen
at
or
this point
heard, good
to
luck.
see the film, and it's on Netflix. You've had over a month to see it. So if you're just a glutton for punishment, not my business. But know that we're going to get into it. But another thing about the film, before breaking down this plot, is that this is based on true events and a true story.
Hmm.
So Dee and I are going to be talking about the film, but we're also going to be talking about the documentary that breaks down some of the realities
What
of what
really
happened to the
happened?
actual people involved in this
Yes.
story. Um, Final thing I want to
Who are
say
not
before
the
we get,
fabric of the community.
who are not, come on now, we love a little shade because we were getting there. We're getting there. Another thing I want to bring up before we get into this plot, is Lee Daniels' motivation behind making this film,
Yeah, what was
which
the motivation?
I read some articles about things that he said leading up to this film, and I found the story actually really interesting because we'll get into it, but I think that there are some pros for sure to the concept and
Hmm.
even the execution choices made with this film that I'm like, that was a bold choice and I'm glad you made it. So Lee Daniels has always had this fascination with horror films. And he's like, I think it said in one interview, one of his favorite films growing up as a kid was actually The Exorcism. He loved that film. The execution of the film, just how,
Yeah.
because honestly, the
Horror
OG,
films have really good cinematography.
it's wonderful
Really good.
cinematography, and to pull off The Exorcist, the original, the way that they did, with as many tricks and things that they created for the horror, and that really kind of set the standard for modern horror films. So he talked about wanting to make basically a black version of The Exorcist, and he discovers the story about Latoya Emmons and her family, and he wanted to turn this into a film, but his mom spoke heavily against it. So he goes on to make other films, and his mom speaks from the spiritual sense, like, hey, when you start dibbling and dabbling in the spirits and you create things about them, that kind of energy can jump on you. That can be a really dangerous playing field. So, I just don't
Hmm.
think you should do that. And ultimately, that's where he stayed until this time came that he decided he was going to do this based off
Even
this
though he
story.
did say he was afraid to like put some of the real stuff that happened like in his movie,
Hmm.
which I don't blame you. Like you can never be too careful when it comes to
You can never
spirits.
be
You
too
can
careful.
never be too careful,
Because
especially if you don't know nothing about it.
I also believe that we give things power in the way that we remember them.
Hmm.
So, like that is there in a lot of cultures, that is the big thing, is that's why we have like Mexico has Day of the Dead. It's about remembering the people who have passed so that their spirits can be at peace. They exist and they have legacy and their spirit is here as long as we remember them. But the same thing can be true for not so positive energy. So we always want to keep that in mind. Um, so I was just really interested reading because I just remember seeing that a lot of people were talking about it. I saw the infamous, because that's what we're going to call it, the infamous clip of Glenn Close saying what she says. And I'm just wondering to myself, what is the context here? I'm over here like, what is the context? So I'm like, I
Did
kind of
you
need to see this
see
for the
that
context.
they? Oh my gosh! There's a picture going around of like a Yankee candle, but
No, I
but the
haven't seen
name
that.
of it.
Is what she said? I can smell, because she did say I can smell. Wow. What color is the candle?
It was pink.
Of course it was. That's what I was hoping you were gonna say. Oh, I'm weak.
Oh my gosh.
So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Plot. We've got this movie, The Deliverance. And for those who are PKs or of the, raised in the church, you kind of will know where this is going as we break down this film. Because for me, once I saw The Deliverance and I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, I know where we're going with this. This is a unique take. So essentially, this family moves into a new house. The house starts having weird things, just like any other horror movie. House starts having weird things going on, weird smells, extra, flies coming out of the basement. And it
The
starts
flies in the beginning for me, I'm like, I need y'all to
telltale.
take these flies a little more
A little
serious
more seriously. You just
because
keep opening and closing. You'll spray some spray at the door.
like the flies
Mm-mm.
alone would have had me like, time to go. We're moving. Like you either need to come take care of these flies or we about to move back out. Like I need my deposit back.
And I think that was one thing to me that I was even like, I had to remind myself because I'm really bad about I'll watch a movie and my logic will kick in and I have to tell myself, Jay, this is calm down, it's a
Yeah,
movie. But in reality, I still would because this is based on true events and that did happen to the actual family was the issue with the flies. There was like a fly
yeah,
infestation coming from the basement. And to me, that
yeah,
is a telltale sign of death. Want no parts of it. No parts. And so that got me because I'm just like,
yeah,
yeah, like you, I would have been like, oh, that's my sign there. I need to get the elders of the church together and we need to go, we need to go into the basement and pray because something's not right. Um, and so we start having all these kind of spooky things happen around the house, noises. But what gets really weird is the kids become affected. So you've got a single mom living with her mom. The main character is biracial, played by Andra
yeah.
Day. They're
Andre
living
Day
with her.
eat
Andra Day eats all the time. Like Billy, what was it? United States versus
Billy
Billie Holiday
Billy
killed
Holiday.
it for me
Yeah.
because she just was so good.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw she was starring in this, I was like, oh, we got Andra Day, we got Glenn Close, we got Anjanou Ellis, and we've got Monique. The
And I
casting
got a
is
little
phenomenal.
piece for Ingenue character. I got a little piece for her.
I do too. I do too, because we'll get there.
We'll get to her.
We'll get there. But Andra Day is playing a single mom who has had some issues in the past with her children and her ex, and the children, are a little mistrustful because she's had a drinking problem. And so there's three kids. Her white mom, played by Glenn Close. And then
Yes.
you've got, like I said, the three
The
kids. And
fabric
then
of the community.
we're going to get there, fabric of the community, Glenn Close
I can't
herself.
let it go.
Because I think,
It
let's
was
get into it
it was the
actually.
dinner table scene. Like, when you see how her character acted at the dinner table, and
Hmm.
I'm just like, what about her character? The When you see the actual depiction of the character and the type of person she is, what about that person? Someone like that would be the fabric of our community.
And honestly, all I can say is I think I know what he was attempting to say because he
I
definitely
have
didn't say
no
it.
idea what he was
I
trying to
think I
say.
know what he was attempting to say. I think what he was attempting to say is that we all know a white woman who
Mm.
is ingrained into our family so deeply. I think that's how I was perceiving
Fabric
it.
of
I
the
know I that's what he
community.
said. That's what he said, which I think
Those are
was absolutely
strong
very
words.
strong words. But I think because for me, watching Glenn Close's character,
Glenn
I
Close
watched
8.
it and I said, now I know a white girl like her
Yeah.
who is deeply ingrained in black families and culture and the community and has some similar mannerisms. The men be after her. I get that. That I see. Fabric of the community, I don't. Fabric of the community, absolutely not. Because there's no way a white person is a fabric of the black community. Not in any form, fashion. No matter how you
And
you
that
flip it or
that
reverse it.
character in particular.
Well, I don't think
like
any
that
white
type
character could ever
in
be
particular.
considered. No.
She didn't even
Um,
have any like fabric of the community qualities. Like nothing about her except for like, oh, now she go to the church now. Like
and
that's
there was
it.
even, I mean, that's when like
And she still ain't shit.
there's even the controversy of the fact that she was cast in the role, and the
Yeah,
woman that
because
she's
for
playing
what?
is a black woman in real life. So it was just like, I don't, I don't know his motivation behind that. That I
I didn't
didn't
get that
get.
either
I didn't get
because I
that.
don't understand how even play like the relevance of her being biracial would have anything to
Anything to
do with
do.
anything
And
that we're talking about.
honestly, I think that this was his way of appealing to both sides. But I think for me, I would have much rather we had a Jennifer Lewis instead of Glenn Close. If we're talking fabric of the community, that would
Yes.
have made more
Oh,
sense.
that would have been so.
Um,
She would have ate that role.
she would have ate that road down, and even just okay, the plot wise, let's get back to the plot, because the fabric of the community part was something that I completely agree with you. It was very off putting, and I did not see that comment until after I watched the film. If I had seen that comment, I probably would not have watched it.
I saw it before I watched the film, and then when I watched the film, I was waiting for the redeeming qualities. I
I
was
I,
waiting for them
I
to
didn't see
pop
it
up.
until after the fact, and I was like,
I
fabric of
was
whose
like,
community? Because it's not mine. But it would just and I still have a side eye for Lee Daniels because I don't always understand your motivation, sir. Like, to me, Lee Daniels, there's some similarities between Lee Daniels and what's his name? Kenya Barris. Kenya Barris. There's some similarities, and I know that they also live similar experiences.
mhm,
And so it's like I get you wanting to put yourself and your reality into a film. I
mhm.
get that. But I mean, if you're going to base this is based on a true story. I get that we have to, you know,
Exactly. Make it
there's
make
some
sense at least.
dramatizing, but at least make it make sense. I honestly feel
It's
that Jennifer
irrelevant.
Lewis would have been a great casting for the
Yes.
grandmother, but we got what we got. So the kids are feeling the effects of living in the house,
Those kids acted down.
acted down, all three of them, because
Yes.
everything is just so, it just starts being really off, and we start to find out that there is really, really strong demonic energy in this house. It is some form of
Mhm.
portal, possibly to the other side. It's all connected through the basement, and it gets to the point where the kids are put in the hospital because of things that are happening in the house, like
Mhm.
weird things, them attacking each other, them attacking themselves, beating heads against the wall, just like
Listen.
crazy, strange things, which again is literally the stuff horror movies is made of. Like
Yeah.
literally, it was to me. I'm not gonna say it was formulaic, but when certain things happen, it's like that's what I anticipated would happen because this is a horror film. But I will
But I'm
also
not gonna
say
lie though, it did give more the way that he did it, it did give me more like suspense than
that's what I was
horror.
about to say. Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Is I think that his approach to the horror theme was very unique, very nuanced. It
Mm-hmm.
was very gracefully approached. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
this jump, like he even said in the interview, I'm not going to be making a film filled with jump scares. He's like, because I
Yeah.
don't make horror films, but this is one that he called a faith-based horror film, which I found a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting way of marketing it because that's what it gave. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
there's a lot of conversation about faith and spirituality in it. And as these kids start dealing with the possession of this major darkness in their
Yes.
lives from this house, we start seeing. Let me tell you another thing that kind of threw me out because Tasha Smith is in this film. Love Tasha Smith. Love Tasha Smith. And she is playing the pastor of Glenn Close's church. When Glenn go to the pastor's office to ask her
I did it.
to exorcise these demons about these kids and about this house, and she basically like, we don't do that
We don't
here.
do that here. I'm
You need to
like,
go
so what do
somewhere
you do?
else.
Are you a motivational speaker?
But that's
Is
my
that what
thing,
you are?
is that hit really close because that's how some churches are now. Like I know one thing that if we're going to talk about it, let me get into it just super quick, and I'm not going to say that long. But if you talk about actual exorcism and the
Mhm.
removal of demonic spirits from humans, it is a process, and in certain faiths, is a process that has to follow a certain regimen for it to be effective. You know, in the Black church is a much different experience than it is in some of the more organized Catholic churches and their environment. It's a very different Black Protestant versus Catholic experience when it comes to the removal of demonic energy off of a person. Through
Mhm.
the Catholic experience, you follow very specific rites. You have to get approved for it. You got to use holy water. You got to follow, you know, you have your steps. Things have to be done a certain way. In the
Yeah.
Black church, that's not how they do it. That's not how they do it in the Black church. We got our holy oil and we are laying hands on you, and the ministers and the elders are coming around you, and we're going to snatch this up out of you. That's kind of how it works in the Black church. It's a lot more aggressive, the approach, and not in a hostile way, but in an offensive versus defensive way. Put it so that is just the comparison I feel like needed to be told, because if you're playing a Black pastor, that was the part that kind of, for me
You
as a
cannot be
believer,
leading souls and you can't save them.
that's the part I was like, I needed
I'm
more.
sorry. You
I
got to
needed
go.
more, because what would have done it for me is if it would have been really cool if Tasha Smith, pastoral character, and Anjanou Ellis, apostle, came together to battle the demon. That to
Because why
me,
are you sitting outside my house and not saying nothing? And we over here going through.
go you just
And you
taking
out here
pictures
taking pictures like a
and
weirdo.
using your binoculars. That
What
was
are
the
you
part
doing?
that
Why
was
was
so
she out there with a
strange.
disposable camera?
That
First of
was
all,
so
it's
strange.
2011. Get a phone. Like,
Was
this is all.
2011. It was. So let's get into it, because Monique plays a social worker and she's having to check in because Andre Day's character had these issues with drinking and kids, the concern about the kids being endangered and custody issues and
Mhm.
all this. Like, so the whole deal of her keeping her custody over the kids was that the social worker was going to be very heavily involved in their moving process and in their acclimation process. And so she's popping up all the time, checking in on the kids, trying to make sure everything's good, but getting Andre Day together every time and cussing her mom out every time. Like, every single time, I'm going to get you together, I'm cussing your mom out, and I'm making sure these kids are good before I leave. And those first couple of times that we see her character introduced, we also see Anjanou Ellis's character there on the other side of the street taking pictures with a disposable camera,
Like a
but not
weirdo.
saying anything. So they're thinking she works with the social worker, because every time they come outside with the social worker, you're here
They
taking
see her.
pictures.
Which I'm
So
like, what are the pictures? Like, what are you doing?
what were you
What
doing?
are you
And
doing?
I'm wondering, this is what I'm wondering though, because on the energetic side of things, what if she was taking pictures to see the progression of
No,
possession? That's what
no.
they do though.
Because
That's
she wasn't even good at her job. Let's keep
I'm
it a
trying.
buck.
We haven't
Let's
gotten there
keep
yet.
it
We're
a buck.
getting there, and it's not. It nuances. I'm gonna say that there were nuances for me, because so when we're gonna fast forward some. The kids end up in the hospital because of what's going on with the possession, and all of
Yes.
them are getting mollywopped, especially the youngest boy. I mean, mollywopped by this demon.
Man, could
He
you
is tearing
imagine?
him up.
Because y'all on Demon House, y'all, the social worker, she real life saw the boy walk backwards up the wall, and I believe the
Up the
doctor
wall.
was in the room too, or the
The social worker,
psychologist, or
the
something like that.
psychologist, and a couple nurses.
They literally saw this boy walk up the wall backwards. Like that actually happened to the point where this lady didn't move. She had to go to
Quit
therapy.
her
Like
job.
quit her job.
And she won't
She
tell
said,
nobody where she
"Yeah,
is. And she's like, I've had enough. I have to find my happiness and my peace
I
now.
don't blame her."
And Demon House, so you know, is the name of the documentary on Prime about this experience, the
Yes.
Latoya Ammons case and what happened to her family and her kids. And we're gonna get into that in a second, because that was the horror movie. That
That
was
man still is. I had Googled him, still got on
still can't
glasses to
see.
this day.
Still can't see.
So I wanted to
So
see, like, did he really? I'm like, his eyes really missed it. Still got
still
on
can't
glasses.
see. So
I think he
so
has his own line of prison glasses.
Come on now, way to pivot.
Like,
Because I bet he ain't
Lord.
going to no more strange houses. Um, I bet he retired those
Yeah.
gloves. So the kids are taken away from her because it looks as though that, like, no one's believing her that there's a possession happening, dark energy. No one's assisting. And they're just thinking she's beating on her kids because of the bruises. But in reality, the kids are beating themselves up and beating each other up, and they don't remember anything. Every time something happens, nobody remembers what happened. And there are a few times that it makes it look like she's beating them, which is why I have to say, cinematography wise, the way that
Mhm.
certain scenes were shot when it comes to the possession and the subtlety of the possession, but also the nuance with her history of, smacking them upside the head and
Mhm.
abuse and alcoholism was brilliant. They
Yeah.
teetered that line perfectly so that you really didn't know what was happening until you knew what was happening. Like, until
Mhm.
we start actually seeing demonic activity, you are considering that maybe these kids are just having a hard time adjusting. Like, it makes it look like maybe they're just acting out because they don't like her
Yeah.
anymore and they want to be up out of
Yeah.
this house. And they're trying to make her look like the villain because even her mom believes that she's beating on them at
And
one
you want to
point.
talk about character development and nuance, because that moment with her and her oldest son in the kitchen when he pushed her down, and then he was for real. Then he was like, oh my god, like.
Hmm.
And then when his brother fell, then he got mad again. It's like that's what nuance and character development is. It's not one note.
It's
Because then he still in
very
that moment
complex.
realizes this is my mom. I do still love her. I still care about her. I'm just not some raging teen smacking my mom around.
Right.
Like, it was good.
That
It was
was
done
good. I
very
agree
well.
with
I'm
you
not
on that.
gonna
It was done very well. The character development was done very well. So let's get into
lie.
Ingenue. She introduces herself as an apostle. She says, I had to watch and see I had to know that things were actually happening before I said anything, but I'm an apostle. I go where God sends me. And, your house is being attacked by a satanic demon, like one of the
And
strongest.
that was
Like,
the first lie she told, because God ain't sent you here because you wasn't prepared.
and
He would
that's
not
the
have sent you
reality. So
unprepared.
let's talk about it, because the reality also was that she had fought this demon before
Mm-hmm.
and lost
And
because
that
of
was
the
red flag
fear.
number 2 for me. Because I was like, ma'am, why are you here if you couldn't even do it?
And at
You
first,
couldn't
I
do
feel like,
it.
but no, I have to give her, this though. I do have to give her credit on this. Is if she hadn't had that conversation, that come to Jesus meeting with oh girl, and they hadn't cried and called out to God and prayed, she wouldn't have known what to do when she was
That's
actually in
true.
that battle. She wouldn't have known
But
at
it's like,
all what to
okay, well,
do.
do that. But don't find somebody else to do it.
And that's the thing about it, is if you watch
We
any
can chat.
other, I really did, that was the part for me that was just a major disconnect that I just really didn't like. Cause I'm like, if you were going to make her that, she was pointless, in my
She
opinion.
was pointless.
She was pointless. She
Imagine
didn't,
if Moses got to the Red Sea, put the stick down, and nothing
and
happened.
nothing happened.
Here.
Nothing.
We just
But
like, so.
I mean, like, I thought we were about to get a good old fight. I thought we were about to get, like, she finna just be coming in with the
I was
spear.
so
So
disappointed. I was
disappointed.
like, why
And I
was
feel like
she
it
here?
was the waste of a really great actress too. I feel like it was a waste of a truly
Because she did
like, she
nothing.
could have eaten that role if he had given her more meat to work with. And it was
Yes.
pointless the way that they set her up in that role. It was just pointless because she gets mollywopped and thrown around by that demon
Turned every which way but loose.
every which way but loose and done in. Now one thing I will
And
say,
here we are back at square one. Haunted when that's
so haunted in the house alone with the demon. The demon is now taken, and she gave her enough information too, because she told her, she said, no matter what form that demon takes, it's gonna try and, tug at your heartstrings. Don't
Mm-hmm.
let it confuse you, whatever. So the demon was in the form of her son, and it's like, mommy, don't hurt me. All of this, like, doing like a demon does. But then it morphed into her mom. So one part that I had skipped over is that this demon killed her mom. Glenn Close's character got snatched up and again thrown every which way but loose and did her in. And so they all knew to a certain degree what it was that took grandma out, but you have no evidence. You have no way that you can prove that that's what did it. So the demon, knowing that her mom is dead from a couple days before, morphs into her mom after having been the son and says one of the most ridiculous ridiculous things I've ever heard, talking to the apostle. But it tickled me. When I tell you
I
tickled,
want to know, like, who
who
wrote
wrote
that?
that? Who wrote it? That's what I'm thinking. Who wrote
Who
that?
was like, this is
I
what
can
she would
smell your
say?
nappy from here. Wow. You can do what?
Why?
Glenn
Why do
Close
you think
ate down though. Every single scene
she
she was
did?
in, she killed it, and she
I
just proved
love
why
Glenn
she's a
Close.
legend. I do too. She proved why she
Yes.
was a legend. I will say the nuances of without the whole fabric of the community thing. I just want to,
Yeah.
because I feel like that puts such a negative
He
like
ruined
shadow,
Glenn Close's moment with that
ruined
because
it,
now people are over it. Because it's like, no,
ruined it
like,
because Glenn Close,
and we love Glenn
every
Close.
character, every person essentially worked with what they had in their role.
Mhm.
I
And
can't
they
say I can't,
delivered.
because even Monique, a lot of her a lot of her best moments are literally facial expressions and reactions to what's
Mhm.
happening in the scene, because her watching that boy climb up that wall, um those moments you get, it's truly nuanced performance when a character doesn't have to say anything and you
Yes.
know exactly what's going through, like what emotion they're
Yes.
going through. Glenn Close performing in this role of this black adjacent white woman, I never thought I would see that from a Glenn Close in my life. And it
Child.
was phenomenal. Her performance was phenomenal. The
Seeing Glenn
accent,
Close look like that was never on my bingo card in my
never on my
entire life.
bingo card for life. Like, but
And
accent,
she
she
delivered.
delivered everything down. Fits, I mean, accented out. Like literally, it almost sounded a little New Orleans. Like it, she did that. Like, and I
It
have to
didn't
give her her
even, if you
flowers.
didn't know it was Glenn Close, you wouldn't
You
have knew
wouldn't
it
have
was
known
Glenn
it was
Close.
Glenn Close at all.
I didn't even recognize Omar Epps at first in the beginning in that doggone. I was like, I didn't even
I
realize it was
kept thinking
Omar
he looked a
Epps
little familiar.
until they got to the birthday party. And I was like, oh, that was Omar. I was like, oh,
The first time I
that was
saw him,
Omar
I was
Epps.
like, I was looking, I was like, it kind of looked like Omar. It is. It is Omar.
I didn't even notice at first.
Wow. I mean, like, I will say though, the film, it's not everybody's flavor, not everybody's taste, but I
But it
do
was
think that
done well.
there were some great executions. Now, one thing for me, as someone who was raised in a church where they speak in tongues and they
Yeah.
cast out demons and they lay on hands, the battle between the mom and the demon was one of my favorite parts of the movie, because I've always felt like if there were to be a movie about fighting a demon from a black churchy perspective, I
Mm-hmm.
would want to see someone speaking in tongues, because that's what people in my
Yeah, you
church
know
have
what? When you
done.
put it like that, yes.
I would want to see, because in my church, I've seen somebody cast spirits
That's
out of
what
people.
Tasha was supposed to be doing.
That's what she was supposed to be doing. But to me, the way that that scene played out was actually hilarious. Because that moment, do you remember that moment where like she thinks she's done for, the demon done beat her up, it looked like she's done,
Mm-hmm.
and
They
then
choked her out.
she like started moving all like she's, and I'm like, what is she doing?
It's time for the
She
percolator.
looked like she was possessed. And then she did that part where like she just screamed out, Jesus help me. And then it seemed like Jesus snatched her and drug her across the floor like this. And then she started speaking in her. I'm like, now I don't know if I would have choreographed the scene the same way. That was given a little possession, not Holy Ghost power. I don't know, but it was giving more possession than anything. But I really liked the take of her being filled with the Holy Spirit, speaking in tongues and casting out the demon. That to
Mhm.
me was something completely original. That when they say,
Yeah.
he did say this is like the horror movie, maybe you would have never seen, or that's filmed from a different way. Some way he worded it, I can't remember how he worded it, but that was the scene where I was like, thank you, because that is something that more people in the culture could see. Like there could be more films where that happens in the black community, because that is something that exists. Oh goodness. Try to take me out right then. Woo. but there is something that exists, and not just in the Black community, but as a way of casting out energies and things that are not good or unclean, that it's something that would happen. Or like, again, that was the scene that when she's throwing the holy water on her, it would have been so effective. Holy water, the Tasha Smith minister put a cross on the head, mama's on the side, hands up, just screaming and praying to
And
God,
that's what made me
laying on her
mad.
hands.
Because it's like the pastor can't do it, the apostle can't do it, but she can do it. Like, no shade, but I'm just saying.
But for real though, it doesn't make
God
sense.
uses everybody, but I'm just saying.
That's true, but it just didn't make sense. I think that was the part for me, is like that last sequence. They got some of the horror components, they got some of the jump scares, some of the transitions that needed to happen. Concept wise, they really had hit the nail on the head by making it unique. I just think execution of some aspects for the last half of the film just weren't there for me. Like, there were some things that I'm like, and it wasn't even major things that he had to tweak. I say, tweak that whole scene at the end when they're the final battle. Tweak the whole final battle. Let's do things a little bit differently here. Like, if the apostle had come with an assistant, that would have even made more sense, because in these situations, ministers never go by themselves.
Especially
that just
if
didn't
you
make
failed
sense.
The first time.
It just didn't make sense, because no minister, no priest, nobody is going to willingly enter into a battle alone, especially with someone who barely believes. I'm not going to take your weak faith having behind with me while we go in here and fight Satan. That's not about to happen. That was nonsensical.
Because
And
the
she
demon is
knew
going
it.
to get the weakest person.
Exactly. And she knew it to
We all
be
know
a
that.
stronger demon. So that part to me just didn't click, especially with it not being part of the real story. I was just
I
like,
was so disappointed.
I was just really, it was a disconnect for me.
What the hell was she here for?
He had really good bones in the story though. So I will say, for those of you who haven't seen it, my personal recommendation is it's worth the watch. It's worth the watch to be tied in, included into the conversation, and to form your own opinion, but also to see how some of it plays out. It's
cute.
totally worth the watch. You get your happy ending. We love that. But let's talk about Demon House, because this is what it was really based on. And the reality of the situation is that the film barely scratched the surface of what was really going on involved in that house. So
my mom's from Gary, Indiana. That's where she grew up.
I didn't know that.
I used
Michael
to go
Jackson
there all
is
the time
too.
when I was a kid, because my granddad lived there all my life. So I used to go there when I was a kid all the time. That's what made me want to watch it, because I was like, oh snap, like.
And what I remember him buying the house. I remember when he bought the house. I remember that making the news, and I don't know why I remember, but when I saw the clip of the scene of the clip of the news when they were talking about, he's bought the house, I'm like, I remember hearing this. I remember hearing someone intentionally, a Ghostbuster, intentionally bought a haunted house, sight unseen, and it was a really dangerous house. And so that was interesting.
Everybody warned him.
Everybody warned him.
Everybody tried to tell him, sir, don't do it.
Don't do it. And so let's talk about the reality of the situation, because the movie, again, barely scratched the surface as to what the people were really going through. I think that Lee Daniels even said that there were certain things he just didn't want to put in the film because it was just too real. It was too close to home. It was too close to the actual situation. And this was something that actual people had faced. And that might have been a motivation behind changing the character, but I don't think so. I think that this had to do with his own lived experience. But
he could have changed the character without calling it the fabric of the community. He could have kept that tweet in the draft.
Completely.
Keep it in the draft.
So, Zach, Bragan, something like that. I feel like Braggins, something like that. Zach B buys this house sight unseen from Ghost Adventures, and he goes with the intention of investigating the house and seeing if the allegations are accurate. He wants to see if this is real. A lot of people are calling it a demon house. A lot of people are saying it feels like there's a portal to something really evil. The town, people don't F with the house. Like, nobody wants to be around it. When the family left the house and moved into a new space, when they found out he had bought the house and that he wanted to have a conversation with them, they were very much like, we're already working with a whole nother production company. But at the same time, you're already in the house. We don't want no parts of
Yeah.
that. And so her brother
Child wanted to
went,
be on camera.
wanted to be on camera, got in the car, talked to the guy about the house. Didn't he go with him to the house? No, he didn't. They talked
He
outside.
rode with him, and
He
they just
rode with
stood
him,
outside
but
and
they stood
talked,
outside and talked about the house.
and that was all it took.
And he did not get back in his own house with his family because they're
They was
like,
like, no, because
no,
you was with him, and he
you
was
were
in
with
that
him,
house,
and he was in
and
that
you
house,
might have something.
and you probably got it on you, and we've already fought this battle.
I don't
We're not doing
blame
this
them
again. I don't
though.
either. I don't either. And honestly, I hate it for him. I wish that he would have used his better judgment and just not. Because
Mhm.
to be kicked out of your house or from where you live because you made a dumb decision,
Because you wouldn't be on camera.
but you
Let's
should have
keep it a
known
buck.
better. Like you,
Because he
that's
knew,
the
he was
thing
like,
for
oh
me.
yeah, I know who you are, and I knew then. I said, oh, here we go.
Oh yeah. So effed up. He was the first one. And even the
Mm-hmm.
family even said they felt that there was something different about him after
Mm-hmm.
being around Zach, and Zach had been to the house. They could feel that they felt there was a darkness on him.
Yeah.
So Zach is investigating this house and he's talking to everyone who had been in the house or been associated with the house, or all the investigators and all the social workers and everyone. And he's digging up all of this dirt. That's how we find out Valerie, the social worker, quit her job and jumped town. She said, I'm gone.
Skedaddle.
I got me a therapist and I want no parts of it. I'm at peace with my life now,
None.
but I still deal with the trauma of it. So I'm good.
Listen, you
Um,
see somebody walk up a wall backwards, you'd be dealing with the
that'd
trauma
be
of it.
enough. That would be enough for you to skip town too.
Be
Want
my
no
last
parts.
day.
So, but they also talked about another social worker who had come in her stead. I think after her, another social worker was helping,
Mm-hmm.
and that lady had a really horrible sequence of events because it was like she was in a wreck, then
First,
something
her
happened.
hand had went numb
Her
when she
hand
touched
went
the
white. Yes, she
blind.
touched the blind because there was oil coming down the blind. She touched the blind. Her
Yes,
hand went dead.
yes.
Whole arm went white. Then they were
Child,
talking
she
about
got
she was in a wreck,
motorcycle burns.
motorcycle accident. It was
She
just like
broke a bunch of
crazy.
stuff.
Somebody died around her. It was just like all types of
Yeah,
wildness. Then you had the who was the other
the
guy?
lady.
Which
Oh,
lady?
you talking about the doctor guy? That was
Before
that came and was
before him, there was one of the investigators. I think it was one of the
oh, the
investigators,
police officer that was
not the
there.
black one, not the black
Oh,
guy. There was an investigator from the original case. He had been
can't
there, and
remember.
he ended up with he ended up he ended up with cancer. He
Oh
had cancer. Remember the guy who had cancer?
yeah.
So
Yep.
he ended up with cancer shortly thereafter. Then the police officer, he had left the house, and then
He like landed on his head or something.
he slipped and landed on his head, and then it was like the next day he was shot.
Yeah.
Craziness. The doctor, they had a doctor there who was doing helping Zach measure the
Checking the
electromagnetic
frequency.
frequencies. And before then, Zach had 2 or 3 camera people and crew quit because they're like, you're
Uh-uh.
acting weird, because Zach was acting weird and he was getting
Yep.
aggressive. And
Yep.
he like snatched one of them, jacked one of them up, yoked him up against the wall, and they're like, and then he didn't remember what happened. Same thing
When
that
they
they had
caught
said.
the camera guy, when the camera guy
With the
got
energy
and
on
they
him,
caught it
that
on
camera guy
camera,
got. He got
they
him,
caught it
but see, it was
on camera,
him and the doctor got
and the
at the same
doctor.
time, because the
Mm-hmm.
doctor was going into the room and the cameraman was standing at the
I think the doctor guy got in the basement though. I think the doctor was already got in the basement.
That's a good point. I think the doctor got multiple times in that house, because he would say
Mm-hmm.
one moment he would feel better and then he'd go somewhere else and the energy would be, because it was the
Mm-hmm.
basement first when he started acting a little strange. And then once they go back upstairs, when him and the cameraman were both got at the same time, and you see the energy on the camera. So the cameraman started losing his mind, running up and down the halls of the hotel screaming, talking about he gonna kill somebody. Oh, talking about he gonna unalive somebody. And then you got the doctor said he went back to his room
Child,
and he was
everything.
freaking out. His stuff started hurting. His chest started hurting. Thought he was having a heart attack. Then I think he was having a
Child, his whole life
nightmare.
started shutting down.
And then he was in the hospital. went into multi-organ failure.
Man.
And then Zach was the most foolish of them all. But before we get to him, then you had, while he's doing all this investigating, it was a woman who pulled up with her kids in the car. And she's like, oh, I used to live in this house when I
She
was younger.
made
So
me
irritated.
so mad.
I was so
He
irritated.
asked her
Are
before.
you
He said,
are
"Are
you
you sure you
sure
want them
you
to
want
come
them to
here?
go into
Because
this
there was
house?
somebody here
Because it
before,
seems to mess
and
with
bad things
kids."
happened to her kids." Oh
She's like, yeah,
yeah,
it'll be fine.
it'll be fine.
And they went in that house and looked, and you could see the moment her daughter shifted. It was like a shift.
But why was she so casual? And then after the fact, we finding out all this stuff that actually did happen to y'all in the house. But when you came here, you were so casual and just like, "Oh no, I've been
Oh
in
no,
the
I don't
basement."
remember anything. I mean, it's an old house, but I don't
And when
remember
they walked
anything.
in, and the first thing they did was open them blinds, I said, "Oh my god,
Done. Done.
they done! They took
That
the
was
blinds.
done. That
They
was it.
done."
The blind scene that was messing people up.
When she was in that basement and she buckled, and she said, "Why you kick me? Why
And he
you
was like,
kick
I
too?"
didn't kick you. She was like, stop lying. Yes, you did. But when they went back and replayed it, and it's like, he didn't move.
Oh, we.
So what happens to them is they get back home and one of her daughters attempts to unalive herself.
Mm-hmm.
And we watch an exorcism, another one, where they go to a church, that's how they're supposed to typically happen outside of the movie
Exactly.
realm. You're supposed to
They're
go
supposed to
to you
actually do that
holy
there.
land. You go onto holy ground and you do it there. You don't,
Say we got
it's
that
not
Eddie.
typically done in houses unless they're unable to be moved. And so they go and you watch the shifting and the cleansing of her energy. But Zach by far was the one who,
The dumbest of them
the
all.
dumbest one, the dumbest one, because he made the
All
choice.
of this
But this
happened.
actually, let's go back to the very beginning, because this is the part I forgot, which would have been enough for me to be like, I'm not looking into it. You have a
The text.
dream. The
Oh, the
dream. You have a
dream. Yes.
dream, and you can't wake up in this dream. And there's a 10-foot goat headed demon that is after you in this dream. You think this might be a sign about what I'm about to encounter.
And then you get
And then
confirmation.
you get confirmation when your cameraman is attacked by it and he said, I
No,
saw
I'm talking about
something.
even before they went to the house, when his spiritual friend texted him
Text
and
him, the
told him
medium.
what he saw,
The
and
medium
told
told
him that
him it was
he
a high
needed to be
level.
careful
The
because,
medium
yep,
told him, you're right. The medium texted him and told him it was a high level demon and that he needed to be careful because it was after him. That's what he
child,
told
and
him.
Debbie didn't even go to the house, but Debbie was dumb. Rest in peace, Debbie. But I'm sorry, Debbie was dumb. Debbie was dumb. So I'm sorry.
Because that
Rest in
was
peace, Debbie.
Debbie.
But Debbie, why would you contact? Y'all got to stop trying to make contact with things that you don't like. Just stop.
Especially when you don't know what you're like. And this is my thing on a spiritual tip. When you get into that space, like there are those of us with spiritual gifts who can do certain kind of work. You can't be thinking you're so high and mighty and so powerful, and so you're not. Charmed was a
Because I
TV show,
fast
baby.
forwarded through them recordings that Debbie had. Because I didn't hear you won't. You won't have that voice. I
When I
fast
tell you,
forwarded.
like, that's my thing though. It's like you have to use wisdom, and that's why
Yes.
people move in spiritual communities. That's why it's
Yes.
a spiritual community. Because when it's just you're an easy target alone. But when it's a group of us coming together and we're connected energetically and we have a common
Don't be
goal,
ingenue.
you don't be ingenue and don't be Debbie. Rest in peace, Debbie. Don't
Right.
like you. No. So he was warned multiple times. Then when when it got on the cameraman and the cameraman was saying he kept seeing something,
Mm-hmm.
that part to me when he was like, what are you seeing? He's like, I think you know what I'm seeing.
And when
That got me.
he was like he wants you.
It wants you. It doesn't want me. It wants you. And then the man still made the conscious decision to lock himself in the house overnight one night.
Not lock himself. Board
Board
himself up.
himself inside. He
He
had
ain't just
himself
locked it
boarded
up.
in the house so that he could get to the bottom of the energy. Those are I love the spiritual realm and I love talking about all things spirit and getting into it, even
But
some of
it'll
the
never
spooky
get that
things.
deep.
But I was never interested in being locked into a haunted house and staying with a spirit that's been mollywopping and taking people out for
You're
God
not
knows how
boarding
long.
me up, and you're not even
In
locking the door.
nothing. Because that
boarding
feels
it
like a
up.
casket. To me, that would feel just like a casket. Like, oh, well, it's over. Let's roll the
And
credits.
I'm like, child, cremate me. I don't even want to be in that.
Like that's a
Like,
lot. And so that
it was a lot.
night, watching that night of him in there, it seemed like at
I didn't
first
feel bad for him.
I
I didn't feel bad for him.
I'm not gonna say I feel bad for him. I feel secondhand regret for him. That's what I feel. I feel
Secondhand
secondhand regret.
embarrassment because you just embarrassed
But it's like
yourself.
and then you made a conscious choice to do this. You did all
Yes.
of this like of your own free
You
will.
wanted this to happen
You
to you.
wanted to do this. And now you're living with the consequences. So the night that he's there, we watch, and it's literally like nothing messes with him until like 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if you noticed that, but it was literally just him walking around, him
Yeah.
like just him going crazy kind of by himself with nothing really actively messing with him until about 3 or 4 o'clock in
He
the
was just
morning.
in his head because he was
In
in
his
the right.
head. But it's like, he's like, why did I do this? What's wrong with me? I got to get out of here. I'm in here alone. Like, he's literally just freaking out, spiraling by himself. But again, you're fearful. What do you think is going to happen when you're fearful
That is attaching to that energy.
in a space? You're just allowing that fear to grow and grow and grow, and it's just waiting because it's like, I'm about to eat good. And it did. Because when it growled at him and you start hearing all those noises and he starts yelling at it, sir, instead of yelling and cussing at it, you should have been calling on somebody, some kind of divine entity or
You came
power.
in here with no plan.
No plan, no sage, no
You
nothing.
got a candle or nothing.
You got no Florida water. You didn't
Not
come
even a white
prepared.
candle.
But it's like there was no preparation because it's like, what did you think was going to happen? Did you just think everybody
That's
was
what I was
tapping
like. What were you?
all
You
this
just gonna
time?
give it back at
You felt the
like,
energy shift. Your cameraman has felt the energy shift. Your crew has felt the energy shift. You've seen it on all of these people. You think that you're just so powerful and immune that you're going to be able to stay a whole night in there with no preparation and nothing to defend yourself?
What was the point?
And so,
in the words of Cardi B, what was the reason?
He got mollywopped by the demon, and now he has to wear special glasses because he has double vision. It gave him double vision. He can't see straight. Literally cross-eyed. He cannot see straight.
Literally. And that's what he wanted. That's what you
When
asked
you
for.
play
You lucky you was able to walk out
stupid
of there.
games, you win stupid prizes.
You saw somebody organs start shutting down, and you said, "Board me up."
Board me up.
I'm going in.
I'll take the front room.
Me and my jacket and my cell phone.
And a TV. Sir, like I was like, where's...
Did you see the stupid stuff that they brought in the house? I was like, why are they...
Like they just
setting the scene?
They staged the house like 2 rooms.
What was with that one stupid baby doll sitting on?
Now that it was just so the old random furniture and rugs.
Oldest furniture they could find.
I was just like, this is so random. Like y'all are trying to make it extra creepy. What is this?
Not trying to set in the scene.
Setting the scene for possession. But to this day, this man still suffers from that. Like to this day, the cameraman has never gone back to normalcy. He's never jacked him all the way up. But you've had people pass. You've had people attacked. You've had
Debbie.
Debbie went through it.
Her husband, and her friend. Ooh.
And that's really sad. That was really sad. I'm just like, and you know, we love us some New Orleans, but even in New Orleans, the energy is so thick that you as spiritualists, as people who see, exist, and live in that spiritual realm, you have to be very conscious of the energy around you. You have to be very conscious of where you turn up, how you turn up, who you turn up with.
And don't intentionally contact negative energy.
Like those of you who play with Ouija boards and attempt to hold seances, if that's not what you've been called here to do, you need to stop doing that. Because the veil is already thin right now. There's no reason for you to be dialing up and speed dialing anybody that you don't know what number you're dialing. And the thing about trickster spirits is you will totally think you're talking to your grandmother until something is run down your throat.
Okay. Y'all seen in Deliverance, child? It was her brother, her mama, her cousin, her auntie.
It was ran through the whole family. But like, and that's the thing about it is like you just have to use wisdom on the spiritual side. It's also why I don't watch a lot of horror films, is because I don't want to manifest horror in my life. So I don't watch a ton
And
of
I
them.
love, like, that's the thing. It's like I love
I love a good
horror
one.
movies.
I love a good one.
Like I love the adrenaline of
The
the
adrenaline rush,
being
yeah.
scared and like all of that. However, I also like when I used to watch American Horror Stories. I never watched the intro. Skip right on through because
Yeah.
it's too many flashing images and
Uh-huh.
sounds, and I don't want no parts of none of that.
Precisely. I agree. I agree.
You know, when I was watching Demon House, anytime they was like, "Oh, we heard the voice. I don't need to hear it.
I don't
Fast
need you to
forward."
play it again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel you
I'm
on
okay.
that.
I believe you.
I feel you on that.
I'll take
Yeah.
your word for
I
it. So
think
it's
our
like
lesson
I'm into it, but I be careful also.
our lesson with this one is that the veil is thin. Don't play games with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, don't play games with it. I think that
And
clear your energy. I think honoring our ancestors, totally fine. I think,
mm-hmm.
lighting a candle and certain spirit work, totally fine. But I think you just have to be very conscious of your intention, because
Mm-hmm.
you have to be very conscious and understanding of your intention and walking in it. Because if you're not, if there's any murk about what you're doing, what do you think that's going to add to the equation? What do you think that's going to manifest and bring about into your space? I don't know. I will say that again, like, between the two, I would say if you watch Deliverance, watch Demon House for full context, because I think it gives you full context. It gives you the full story. It adds the weight.
And the full story is
So good and scarier than the movie. That's what's
yes.
wild. So much scarier than the
If
movie.
he had
So
kept more of like, because I do wish he would have kept a little bit more of what actually happened. But man, if they had kept like that, would have been a horror movie.
I will say the conclusion of it was after Zach faced his double vision. He left the house, of course, and ultimately decided the best decision was to destroy the house. Now,
Which
I
I was
think
like, no, y'all need to burn that.
burn the house.
Burn
That's what
it
I was
down.
thinking. I don't think that it was a wise decision to destroy the house because he kept souvenirs from the house. You
Mm-hmm.
kept wood and you kept
Then
planks
he
and you
keeps some
kept
dirt,
stuff. Kept some dirt from the basement
and it's
where
like, sir,
rituals had been done.
if you wanted to bring the spirit with you, just say that. You didn't have to bring the dirt, like the dirt, the
And see that, and
soil.
honestly, in hoodoo and voodoo culture, that dirt would be very valuable. It would be very powerful and potent
That's what
because of
I'm
what
like. You
happened on
can't
that land.
just
You
be
can't keep
walking
it.
around with that.
You can't keep stuff
You
like that.
already can't see. Burn the house. I was so mad
He
they didn't
made
burn that house
so
down.
he made so many dumb decisions, and that's to me another thing about, like, I think it's also a reminder that these types of topics can be fun and be a lot to, like, dive into, and they can be so much fun to explore. But if you're not doing this with the right level of intelligence and
Mm.
knowing of what needs to be done, because they even said it in the documentary, oh, you're going to break down this house, who knows what kind of evil you're going to unleash into the world. That's why you burn those types of things.
And you don't take nothing.
You don't take nothing with you. What you need a souvenir for? You can't see. There's your
You got
souvenir.
that's your souvenir.
You cannot see, sir. You cannot see
Time
straight.
you wake up, you get a
You
souvenir
have
of
a
what happened
reminder
to you in
every
that
day. Why do you need anything from that? That to me, that man was foolish. A fool if I've ever heard of one. Um,
food.
but
And
yes, we want to
you
thank.
it was like he was begging, like, please come get
Please
me.
come get me. Please snatch
Please.
me up. Like, and that was the thing for me. That whole scene of him at the very last scene of him in that house, I was like, tisk tisk. You play stupid games, you win stupid
You
prizes. Because
went
that was
super
him winning
fly.
a stupid prize right there, screaming and kicking his legs up and talking about leave me the f alone. You should have left it the f alone.
Period.
Mm, I'm sorry to that man, but we want to thank you all for tuning
That's really
in
love it.
to the first of spooky episodes this month here at the 5011 Chronicles. Y'all, we're going to see you next week. We're going to do it all over again. We love you, and we will
Yeah.
see you soon. Peace.
Bye.